Hi, everybody. I'm Dave Lundahl, CEO for Insights Now, and I'm really happy to be giving this presentation today on newness. You know, what is new? And it's an important topic today because people are seeking things new. Newness is important for brands. Newness brings life to companies and to brands. If you're not new, then it's not a good thing, and it's really a typical sort of life cycle of some brands that are viewed as just not new, and so they're not doing it. So before we get into our content today, I'm going to kind of go through a few things, a few sort of housekeeping items here, and see if I can get this thing to work. So we're going to do a poll at one part here today, and we're also going to have some opportunities at the end for question and answer. So to kind of set the tones, if you have questions as they come up during the presentation or at the end, please put them into the chat box, and then we can address them, and we'll have a dialogue and hopefully some great questions. If you have a question and want to pose it, likely other people have similar questions, and so it'll make for a great exchange. All right, so with that, let's kind of get into this. So what is newness? Newness can be a lot of things. Is it have to do with the brand? Is it has to do with a product? Is it has to do with claims and positioning? Is it have to do with the experience itself? So we're going to start things off today with a little poll. And I'm going to get this poll working here. So I'm going to launch this poll. Select the poll first. So what is it about a product that makes it new? Okay. So if everybody can just go in and click, is it about the awareness of a product? Is it about how is a different product from the brand? Does that make it new? Is it about the claims, that are recognizable? Maybe claims that are recognizable with some kind of a twist, or is it about just the product experience itself? All right, people are clicking through, still getting some polls here. Looks like we're about done. So I'm going to close the poll, and we'll show the results of that. Share the results. So 3/4 of you thought it's more about the product experience. Some said awareness of the product. Some thought it's more about the brand and claims. And, so in essence, I think, and we have found, and I'm going to show some information today, that newness is all these things. In fact, all these things contribute to the perception of something is new. And this newness really can have behavioral impact on whole product categories. And I'm going to show a case study today in how newness really impacts perceptions and how this. So to kind of lay the foundation for the discussion today, the first thing I want to talk about or think through here is what is the behavioral science here that impacts newness? And I'm going to come at it from two different perspectives. These are 5 different frameworks that we apply as a behavioral insights company, and working a lot in product innovation. And if you don't know Insights Now, that's really what we do, And the first is something called the behavioral pyramid. And what the behavioral pyramid is a ways to look informationally from information we may collect in research that ladders up to having behavioral impact. And the type of information you can collect at the bottom of the pyramid are things that change slowest in lives, like you're not going to change who you are. You're a lot of personalities are set and things like that. But you have kids and suddenly your lifestyle changes, and or situational content, where you go and where you are, the moments of your lives, changes a lot, the perceptions of things, and that leads to, how you appraise things, the modes of thinking that you use, and that ladders up to how you react, what motivates you, and eventually, what kind of actions do you take. Now, what we're going to do today is take this sort of mindset and that information, and we're going to apply it to what we call the habit flywheel. And this is a flywheel because the faster this flywheel goes around, the more set our habits for people. Now, if you're going to disrupt a product category, if you want to disrupt the marketplace, if you want to change people's behavior, you need to first disrupt them. That means you need to slow down or stop the flywheel for an individual, and so that you can renew and build a new habit and start that cycle to be going around and around, okay, faster and faster with a new habit, so on and so forth. Now, what I mean by that is that what the habit flywheel, this framework, allows us to think through is whether a given product that is new in the marketplace, a brand, as it provides something new to the marketplace, that can be disruption or it can be a nudge. And if you are already the market leader, you don't want to disrupt your brand fans. You don't want them to perceive that this new product is something that is going to change. But what you want to do in a new way is nudge them along so that your brand fans will continue to love and be loyal. Now, but if you're trying to bring new fans on and create new relationships with people, that's where, even if you're the market leader, you want to disrupt. Sometimes it's a combination. To your brand fans, you want to nudge, and to others, you want to disrupt. Now, if you're a completely new to the world product, a new brand, it's all about disruption. So the habit flywheel here is relevant in that there's components of the product that you bring to product and what is new is about the brand. There's some components about the messaging and how a product is positioned. There's components that are about the claims that you make, whether they're relevant, whether they're unique, and there's components about the product itself, the perceptions of the product, and the experience that it delivers. And what we're going to talk about today is how all this comes together in terms of the perception of newness and disruption. Now, so first, we're going to talk about today in a case study about brand trust. Secondly, we're going to talk about how you can measure, and these are measurable things, how you can measure the relevance and uniqueness of claims and how that is supported by other things maybe in a package, such as the ingredient statements. We're going to talk about the experience itself, how the product experience delivers emotional impact and how you can measure that. And last, how all this ladders up to creating disruption. And we're going to introduce to you, if you haven't seen this before, is a metric that we call lift. Okay. Now, the case study is something that we can probably all remember when this happened. In 2019, Impossible and Beyond Burger, and we're going to focus on the Beyond Meat brand and the Beyond Burger launch that happened back in 2016, but in 2019, we saw it all hit our awarenesses. And a lot of people were trying the Beyond Burger in 2019, as you may remember. That was a really new thing, and it disrupted the category of plant-based meat, Okay, remember that? So we're going to talk about that because back in 2019, we did some research. And we did a research with a group we call Product Category Advisors. This is a community of people in different cities of the parts of the US. And these are primary shoppers that are also category users. And we selected category users of the plant-based category, plant-based meat category. And they had to be primary shoppers as well for their households. And we found back in 2019, at the time we did this research, that Beyond had pretty good awareness. About 69% of people had heard of it, but only about a quarter, 27%, had actually tried it. And the awareness was a little less than Boca and Morningstar, about the same as Impossible, and so on and so forth. So this group's awareness was there, but their usage was small. And what we did in this study is we did a home use test. And what the design of this research is that pre-trial, we did an assessment of the category. And we looked at all of these different brands, and we did some research on those brands and their perceptions of these brands. And then we had people prepare at home, try whatever they're currently using. Okay, could have been any of these products. And because these are the ones that are in the marketplace, and this was all conducted in the Chicago area. So we're getting, central central part of the US sort of consumers. And then we dropped off to their homes. We had a courier service to do this, to have people try this Beyond Burger product, okay? And then we did some post-trial assessments, both of the regular and of Beyond Burger. So what did we learn in the pre-trial work on the brand perceptions, especially with regard to trust? Now, to measure trust for all of the brands, what we did is we did something called an implicit explicit test. And this test provides a metric from 0 to 100 that the faster people say trust when they see a brand flash in front of them, the faster they say they select trust. We do a calibration to determine whether they're using system 1 or system 2. So at some cutoff point for that individual in that moment, if they measure trust, but it's below this time that we say this cutoff value, we believe they're using system 1 or implicit mode of thinking. If it's longer than that, then they're using explicit. And we weight in this 100-point scale against implicit. So a score for Beyond Meat, which was scored pretty high, scored pretty high, okay? It got a very high score. A high percentage of people scored, I trust it very fast. Now, and other brands, and this I'll talk about Tofurky a little bit, scored very low. And that means that people very fast said distrust, which is really interesting because this is a brand that's been around for a long time. You have to go back to 2019. It's not the perception today of Tofurky, but amongst the Chicago primary shoppers or category users, Tofurky, if you look at it, got a fairly low score. Beyond Meat, as well as Impossible, scored pretty high. They scored in the mid 80s, and along with Morningstar Farms and Simple Truth. Okay, so this is about implicit brand trust. Now, when we drilled into this to understand implicit reactions of the drivers of brand trust, we found that Beyond Burger versus what was the 75th percentile of the other products, that the key differentiator was Beyond Meat was perceived as trend-setting and innovative. So it still had good value, perceived as good value, fair quality, reliable, trustworthy, desirable. But the biggest sort of driver of implicit brand trust was trend-setting innovative. So it was viewed already as a new product just from the awareness alone. Now, secondly, we looked at all the claims across the whole category. And what we did for this is we did actually two measures. One, we did a uniqueness, and we did that on a 5-point scale. But for relevance, we applied the implicit explicit test. And for every single claim across the category, in this example, US organic, if people said yes and did it with a system 1 or an implicit mode of thinking, it got a high score. And other claims like gluten-free, not as relevant. It got scored yes, very fast, so it got a low score. And also what we did is at the same time, you can take the same data and not just do a score of 0 to 100, but you can take away the component of people saying yes, but slow. That means that some sort of claims are more disruptive. That means they move people into, I got to think about that. Yeah, this is, yes, I consider this to be relevant for me, but it forces people into an explicit mode of thinking, which is an indication of disruption. Now, if you look at uniqueness against implicit relevance, fast positive, you see that there's a number of different metrics or different sort of claims that kind of fit into this area. And you can look at made with avocado oil, made with organic vegetables, and so on, are scoring pretty high there. But when you look at it in terms of explicit relevance, you see that a number of things drop out. And what stands alone here is made with organic vegetables, so it's organic and non-GMO project verified. So already the claims, and these were two claims that for Beyond Burger really sets it apart from the other products. What I mean by that is we also looked at clean label. We looked at every single ingredient across the whole category. And we can do it very fast, and rapidly iterate and do the same thing for looking at, like in this case, this is egg white, which is an ingredient, is ingredient about the protein. One of the proteins is used in the ingredient statement on the back label. And this score is really high. So okay versus avoid. But things like soy protein isolate sounds more chemically or whatever. A lot of people don't understand what that is. It scores relatively lower in terms of its perception. A number of people, a larger number of people said avoid this product and do that very fast. So looking at, again, the proteins, you'll see here, the interesting thing is looking at the label, the back label ingredient statement for Impossible. And you can see how it compare how the Beyond Meat product, Beyond Burger, how that actually compares. And in the proteins, egg white scored the highest. You see egg white is something that is used in, as well as pea protein isolate to score relatively high. But things like isolated soy protein and things like that, which are used more by the Impossible brand, much more viewed as lower score, less clean label. And you even see that more so in the colorants, where apple extract is the primary red coloring for Beyond, but Impossible uses soy legohemoglobulin, and most people have no idea what that is, but what that is actually, it's a non-GMO product ingredient that gives the bleed effect like blood, like hemoglobin. So very interesting. So it's not perceived. And so when you look at pre-trial, the things that stood out as driving choice amongst all the products in the category, this is based on something called a max dip. I'll get into a little bit more. That metric of choice, the things that drove, and this is a scorecard for just Beyond Burger, you'll see that brand awareness, brand trust, the ingredient cleanness, for the average score across all the ingredients for clean and past trial, those four things drove choice for Beyond Burger and any of the products for that matter, more so. And you see that Beyond Burger scored pretty high in being clean and a trusted brand, even though not many people had tried it yet, and not everybody was even aware of the product that much. We did the brand perceptions only amongst those who are aware. Okay, so that's dealing with sort of this idea of relevance and uniqueness, and supporting that in the claims that the brand will make through the product itself. Now, what happens when you have a product experience? And we're able to measure this in the home use test. Okay, so here, what we did is we utilize implicit explicit test again, but we do it for a way to determine the emotional profile. What is it? How did the product experience impact people in terms of their emotional impact? So what we do first in this technique is, since an experience with a product and eating it is a slow process, and the experience is capturing a lot of components, and that is, emotions are fleeting. What we do is, when people are finishing this sort of consumption experience, what we ask them to do is select an image that best captures their overall thoughts and feelings about the product. And you select an image, and then we focus on that image as a proxy, as a sort of as a way of portraying the emotional impact. And I can show that over and over again as a prime for further questions, so that we can understand what the product experience is. And it's a great technique. It's been highly validated in multiple things we've done. The second step is that we ask people, why does this image capture your thoughts and feelings? So you get some qualitative content. And then we ask people further to, see if I get this to work. Here we go, good. And then describe the image. So this gives some indications on the cues that potentially are coming from the product experience that signal the emotional impact. And then last, we show this image again, and we ask people, how did this image make you feel? And then we give a bunch of words, and we look at the word associations as yes or no. And the word associations that people select very fast implicitly are the ones that have the highest scores. So this data is a remarkable piece of research in terms of showing that if you look at traditional metrics like overall liking, it's flat. There's no significant difference. Some differences in cooked appearance liking and texture liking, but overall, that a lot of companies, a lot of people will, hang their hats on for decision making, was basically no difference. But when you look at the emotional profile, a bunch of things pop. So, such as happiness. The Beyond Burger against people's current burger is averaging all the other products together. Is significantly higher in terms of the implicit score on that 100-point scale. So a 73.8 versus a 57.4. Excited was also significant, 58 versus a 40. And then a bunch of negative emotions are much less, like unsatisfied, bored, disappointed, tired. That means that the product experience gave them more energy, more being not achieving their expectations. It offset the boredom, and people were much more satisfied after the fact. So we found that often it's the negative lack of negatives that show a product is better, because negative is there's more reactions often to the negative side than positive side with things. And so anyways, that's the emotional profile. And we also can, with this technique, look at the qualitative information, which gets you indications on what is it about the product, what it is about the experience that people really thought, and it really stands out. It appears to me to look one way, but I'm guessing you feel another way. It's clean. Other things, it's opened my eyes to the possibility of adding plant-based to your family menus, and so on. So, horizons, sort of new perspectives. So anyways, this is the product experience. So now the last thing for lift, this sort of metric, this measure. So what we did here is we utilize before, we looked at the whole category. We had people do something called a max diff exercise. And we gave them sets of 3 different brands along with the claims and the ingredient statement. And we asked people to select what was most appealing of this set and what was least. So you can see a ranking, and through multiple sets, what you get is a scoring for each person from the highest to the lowest on a max diff scale for choice. And averaged over all the people that are in this study, in addition to, you can do pre and you can compare it against post trial for, and you can see here is that Beyond Burger, because everybody tried Beyond Burger, lifts. It goes from, a score of 8.8 on pre-trial to a score of over 12 post-trial. And if you take a ratio of these, that is actually an estimate of the choice share, the amount of additional choice, how much choice is increased by trial. And you can see how that compares against all the other products in this. Now, it does one other thing that's just really cool, and that is it allows for determining who you're taking share away from. So you say, who lost share by having this product experience with Beyond Burger? And you see that Dr. Prager's or Great Organic Blend and Nightlife, for whatever reason, are losing more share from Beyond Burger's gain. Now, the interesting thing is there's a halo effect for Impossible, which was also launched and also a disruptor in this sort of category in 2019, also had lift just from the fact that people tasted Beyond and found that to be really interesting. So the Newness Effect is a compilation of perception about the brand, about the claims, about the experience and how it has emotional impact. And it also, this relates to measures showing that this product is disruption. So there's a correlation between these sort of metrics and lift, which gives you an assessment. So the Newness Effect, kind of in summary here, the Newness Effect is related to sort of how products disrupt, how products create, disrupt and stop the flywheel, that is to make people open to a change and eventually create a new relationship with the brand so that you can have a new sort of habit, start the flywheel going around faster and faster by continuing to reinforce this new experience, this new trust in the brand and so on over time. And so these sort of true metrics, that is trust and relevance, uniqueness, and experience, emotional impact, these metrics really are interesting. So if you look at the flywheel, you see that initially there was a lot of great trust already established, that there, for Beyond Burger, the claims of being non-GMO, project certified, organic, which were two top claims, were really viewed as unique and relevant for people. That the impressions, I didn't show all the other data we had, but there was information on product impressions: tastes like meat, it's appetizing, it's trendy, popular, it looks like real meat, and then it has this emotional impact: less disappointment, dissatisfaction, less boring, less tired, more happy, more excited after the fact. These sort of emotional impacts really help instill and build trust further into the brand and so on. Now, what we were able to do in a home use study is to measure these elements that I'm showing here on the screen and measure the lift. What we were not able to do at that time was to really understand how this sort of flywheel instilled loyalty, because that's going to take some time. And it would be interesting, and we're actually considering doing some further research, which we'll show in a different time, about loyalty and perhaps what we learned from this. So that's sort of kind of a summary of this piece of research. So in closing, what I want to do is, again, go back to what is the newness effect, and what's the so what about this newness effect. And what the so what is that number one, as I showed today, it is a new action standard. It's a new action standard that you can use this lift metric in particular to make business decisions, because it gets you an indication of that lift, how much additional share you can take from a category by introducing something that's perceived as new. And secondly, and more importantly, and I'm going to finish today in talking about this, is that the newness effect is not just a one-time action standard for a home use test. It is actually, the newness effect provides a pathway, a more behavioral approach to measures and metrics that can be used throughout the whole product life cycle to achieve success. And what I mean by that, just as to leave you all, and perhaps we can talk more about this in the question and answer, is if you think about the product life cycle, there's what we call the 4 Ds of success to get success in launching a new product. Number 1 is do your homework and discovery. And what you can do here is, as I did earlier in this research, showed that you can take a whole category and you can measure all the brand perceptions. You can measure how the claims are relevant and unique. You can measure all the ingredients over the whole category, and you can measure, if you want, the product experiences for maybe your current product or other products that you think are key competitors in this space. Do your homework, because it will give you good indications on what are the opportunities to build something new and introduce it in the marketplace. Secondly, you can use this information to design products. That means you can test new claims, determine which ones stand out as being more relevant or more unique from the marketplace, as well as you can think about even what ingredients to build new products from that could be perceived as, in this case, clean label. Now, you can also, as we showed here, then you can use this as a test to determine the behavioral impact, on the perception of the brand, as we showed you through this lift metric. And last, you can use this, and we didn't touch on this today, but you can use these sort of behavioral techniques, this implicit, explicit test. We have some examples I'll show you another time if you wish, or just contact me on how you can test advertisement, how you can test marketing marketing messaging to determine which sort of messages have the greatest impact on awareness and which one have the greatest propensity to drive trial. And so that you can get this flywheel to move faster, getting trial, and then deliver on the promise of the brand and the claims that you're making. So that's the so what. I think there's a lot of opportunities. And with that, I would like to take some questions from you all, okay? So I'm gonna look up your questions and let's see what's going on. I know there's a number of you out there. So one question is non-GMO versus USDA organic. And what's the difference between those? That's a great question. So as I showed in the ingredients, these typically go to claims, and for food products, the ingredients that are used in building products and how that is, they support claims, okay? And so what that is like non-GMO, some ingredients that go into building products are GMOs. That means that they are not naturally from the environment, and utilized or extracted from something. They are something that has been created through usually some sort of fermentation technique. And so it's some way of gene splicing to create something. And in the case of the bleed, an example, in the case of Impossible Burger, they use this sort of proprietary ingredient that is a GMO, and that is not what as an example of a colorant used by the Beyond Burger. That's an example. And organic is organic, so the non-GMO is really the key differentiator there. Next question is, could you share what the overall costs of this research? It's a great question. On the home use study, it's very similar to any home use test. So, so the actual questions and all that information that we capture is very easy to do. Implicit testing, you can capture tremendous amount of information in a very short period of time. So it's no different than your traditional home use test, where you're just trying to get information perhaps on overall liking and some other traditional metrics. So next question says, all USDA organic must be non-GMO by law. Non-GMO project verify means your check did not bounce. That's a really good comment. Yep, I agree with that. That's good. What else? Anything about the brand? Usually I get questions about brand when I do this sort of, are there any brand people here in the audience that see there's some value in terms of understanding through these implicit techniques the perception of the brand, which I think is really important? No? Okay, good. I think everybody probably understands that. All right, well, I think that's about it for today. I really appreciate everybody joining us for this. This is our 60th webinar that we've done over the last maybe 3-4 years. If you're interested in this, let other people know. We'll have this recording of this session posted here in a short while today, and so you can just send anyone else. You say send them to. They just register like you did, and they'll be able to get in there. And so, one more question. Do you have an example of applying this technique in a B2B situation? That's really interesting question. So we work with companies that are in the ingredient marketplace as well. So that's a B2B. We work with, we have a partner that works, they're research chefs, and they're developing products. You can think of that as a B2B as well, because we worked in for companies that are developing products that are for their clients in the food service industry. So we work around a lot in B2B as well, and a lot of we work with some agencies in terms of where they're really more focused on brand and building brand awareness and all that. So yes, these implicit techniques have relevance even in B2B. So for instance, ingredient companies are utilizing today these implicit, explicit techniques that we have to really understand which of their ingredients are clean or not, and to help support their products that they bring to market. Also to get ahead of the curve, look at whole categories and create ideas for their clients through our research partnership to determine, what are the opportunities for so the ingredient or companies can get earlier into the product innovation life cycle for supporting their clients and move forward in great ways. So that's about it. Last question. Sometimes last questions are the best. But anyways, thank you everyone for joining us. And next month we're going to do some. We'll have another webinar. We'll be sending out an announcement of that at the early part of November. So everybody have a great day. Thank you again for joining us. And if you have any further questions, don't hesitate to contact me or anyone else from Insights Now that can support you. Bye.